Well guys, right away we have some awesome news. Ukraine is using FPV drones not just in Crimea. This is the drone unit Primary. They continue to use FPV, long-range FPV drones also in the eastern side of Ukraine. They may fly for around 40 kilometers. It is crazy, but it is happening. And here in this video, they show the result of their operation. It's not a game, it's reality, my friends. They hit many of the raiders. Most of them are damn expensive. This is, for example, the radar for the air defense system S-300. Or no, this is the launching unit of the S-300 system, not the radar. But also there was, one more radar, very expensive, Nebaul. Podlot K1. You see how Russian soldiers are running away, probably. Yeah, I'm gonna put me a little bit up for you to see. So yeah, it is happening, guys. This unit, probably they hit the most of the raiders out there, most of the air defense. The launching system, again, of S-300, boom, it is gone. And wow, guys, it is. And one more raider. So absolutely great job. They damaged the Russian very sophisticated and very expensive equipment far behind the front lines. Maybe they may reach this range with the help of the mother drone. It is like the small airplane which can fly far away and drop FPV drones to do this job, but it is outstanding, my friends. And I think that the same drone unit, it continued to operate in Crimea as well from the drone boat, so they expand as the drone technologies advance every day, I would say. Yeah, sorry guys, I just got sick, so there was no update yesterday, but today we have some of the good news coming from the front lines. You see it on your screen. So we are speaking about the Sumy region. Kindrativka village was liberated, mostly I would say, by Ukrainian army just this day, and I have information about some of the Russian soldiers who surrendered to Ukrainian side. Partially I would say a few of the streets are in a gray area. The information has just arrived, so there is no recent update on the deep state military map, but we have the confirmation from the local officers who fight in the Sumy region. Is there any chance for Ukrainian army to move even further here? I would say for now, no. Russia has more reinforcements, resources, and so on. So from this side, the idea was just to take this village under control, to use it as one more defense spot. That's it. The idea is to stop the Russian offensive now in the Sumy region. No one speaks about the massive counteroffensive. And yeah, even on a deep state military map, with the most recent update, we have the expansion of the gray area. So it was yesterday and it is today, but I have the information that Ukrainian army about the presence of the Ukrainian armed forces in Kindrativka all over the village. So just those couple of the streets are in a gray zone. So in fact, the gray zone is bigger than deep state military map shows us here. In general, Ukraine is going on counteroffensive in Kindrativka, Andriivka, Alexeyevka and Konstantinivka, so this western part of the Sumy front lines, but Russia tries to push more towards Yunakivka and Yablonivka, and a couple of days ago I think they were really successful taking the part of the villages and fully occupying Yablonivka and moving more to the south. However, again, there is the natural obstacle for them, forest, some of the hills, water, so they cannot advance fast, and I would say that the Sumy operation was already stopped for the Russian army. Yeah, they may propel, taking like few patches of the ground, but it's not that big, and it has no perspective for being big offensive from the Russian side, which we all wait in the coming weeks, as it was officially said by many of the sources around the world. So Russia is getting ready. They will send more of the infantry to Ukraine. We're speaking about 160,000 new soldiers, which could be deployed very soon. So Russia is using mid-waves, and today in this video we're going to speak about the possible escalation of the war even to the other countries, and I see the signs that Russia is really getting ready for that kind of the scenario. Yeah, we also have the confirmation from the Mykol Center 3 about the successful Ukrainian counterattack, liberation of Kotlarivka, and more attack vectors are coming from Ukraine in few of the villages like Alexeyevka and Andriivka was liberated before, but Russia attacks most to the eastern part of this hump they created in Sumy region. Yeah, we're gonna go to the eastern front lines just a little later. For now, let's speak about the good news, because the changes on the eastern front line, they're not good at all for Ukraine, but still Russia is unable to gain the previous pace to occupy territories fast. So as it was the comparison today, I heard from one of the pro-Ukrainian YouTubers, so if we put the snail at the very eastern border of Ukraine and command it to scroll all over Ukraine to reach the western border on 24th of February 2022, the snail would have achieved its goal already. But Russian army is slower than snail in this case. But what is not changing in Russia, that there is the political will from Putin and Putin's circle, his friends, to achieve the military goal in Ukraine. They're not diverting and they're escalating more and more. Like, for example, if we compare 2022, the end of the year, and 2023, then the fights were happening just in Bakhmut, like the main fights were happening in Bakhmut with Wagner army. Well, now the fights are happening all along the front line, and Russia needs to use way more soldiers and resources in 2025, and that increased actually the losses for the Russian army. Yeah, I almost forgot, I promised you the good news. Here we are, we have some of the photos. Yeah, the photos with blurred background. Those are the Abrams tanks delivered to Ukraine by Australia. We're speaking about roughly 46 of machines. I also shared those pictures and more on my Telegram channel, so people subscribed on my Telegram, they already know those news. Well, anyways, Australia supplied to Ukraine more Abrams American-made tanks compared to the United States of America, which is kind of astonishing if you think about it. Yeah, we have the huge support from the United States. They provide Ukraine with the most military support from the other countries. The second place goes for Germany, but United States is not supplying Ukraine with tanks or fighter jets like F-16s. Ukraine got fighter jets from the European countries. Well, at least the United States made the training for Ukrainian pilots to be type rated on F-16s, and I would say that American training was well, I know some of the pilots out there, and they told me that they really like to fly and to commit their training in United States of America. We also, guys, have the good news coming from France. President Macron promised to train more of Ukrainian pilots on Mirage 2000 airplanes. Well, Mirage 2000 is a little bit outdated, I understand it, but still it's a good airplane which will help Ukraine to gain at least some part of the air superiority over some patches of Ukrainian territory. But still, Ukraine is far to use those airplanes close to the Russian border, because there were some of the cases then Russia just shut down Ukrainian F-16s. Well, at least one was shut down with the Russian S-300 system, maybe it was S-400 system. Well, Mirage is very similar to F-16, so I would like Ukraine to receive at least Rafale, Rafale fighter jets, and in the future maybe F-35s, but those are just my impossible dreams, impossible for the next few years at least. Well, now let's go to the other topic, my friends. Right, we have the news that Russia wants to block WhatsApp, and 99% as Russian opposition sources say that Russia is going to make it happen. And Putin plus Russian circles, officials out there, they constantly speak about banning entire Western internet. They want it to happen really fast without creating some sort of the alternate. Well, they made the Max messenger, which could play the role as the Chinese WeChat, so you can pay through it, you can film videos there, it is like a messenger as well, so everything in one app. In their case it's called Max, and it is being controlled by Mail.ru Corporation, internet giant out there in Russia. However, at the same time it is just transparent to the Russian special services. That's why Russia is blocking the Western-made messengers. They afraid of something, And Putin plus his company, they're really into it. In his interviews, recent ones, Putin was telling that it's better to block everything that is coming from West in internet. It means that Russia is getting ready for something. They are planning, I guess, mobilization of the Russian men, not 300,000 as they did the last time in 2022. No, they want really more people, like maybe 1 million at least they need to put them on the front lines with Kalashnikovs and those mid-waves. I see it like that. There is no any visible reason for Russia to escalate that much, blocking applications, blocking messengers. It's not just about WhatsApp, it's about many of the applications. They're gonna block YouTube as well. For now it's slowed down and they make it almost impossible to watch in many of the regions. Plus, as Russia says, because of the Ukrainian drone strikes, they block internet in many of the regions of Russia. Sometimes they block it in St. Petersburg, sometimes in Moscow, some of the districts completely blocking, like there is no access. People even cannot pay with their cards because it also requires internet. Yeah, Russia has its own card system, like not MasterCard, not Visa, but Mir, it's the name. Again, if we go back to the military map, you see that Russia is trying to attack in many of the directions, like they move in the Kharkiv region, they tried to go to Sumy, they moved in the northern part of Kharkiv, they concentrated lots of the forces in Pokrovsk, also in near Bakhmut, in Chasiv Yar, Toretsk, south of Ukraine, and everywhere they want to advance. They're not concentrating their forces in a single attack vector, and that's their policy, but for this they require lots of the army men. Russia wants to attack, to escalate, and it seems like that with this new strategy, those volunteers who've been paid sometimes 3 million rubles or more, well, those are not enough for this kind of the tactics, and Russia wants to call many new people in their army, but the previous mobilization mainly failed. Well, it's better to say partially failed. Russia got those people in their army, 300,000, maybe even more, but many Russian men left the country. So for all of those years, Putin and his circle, as I call it all the time, they modernized the Russian legislation, and they may find any freaking man on territory of Russia, and they may close the borders for those Russian men who try to escape new mobilization. Everything of that is already filled. They may even block the bank accounts of those people who were called to be mobilized but hiding. And I think that Russia already started to struggle with the volunteers they have, like with the number of the volunteers. They're still coming because Russia lives in poverty and people need money, but showing some of the pictures, then Russian army men from conscription service, they are walking on the streets searching for drunk people, hobos, homeless people, to get them into the army, you know, those contract proposals to make their lives better. Well, this shows that Russia struggles with army men, that they have significant losses on the front lines. They're unable to cover those, but they need to go ahead because there is the political will from Putin, and Putin wants to block all of those messages, Western internet, because he doesn't want the information to be spread. He wants to control information, ban people, to avoid the massive panic in case Russia announces a new big mobilization. As the other reason, it could be a prelude for the conflict against the Western countries. First of all, Baltic countries, because they are so vulnerable here. They don't have enough population, their geographical position is not very good, I would say not good at all for defense. Putin might need the fast winning war, as he actually tried to do in Ukraine, attacking the country back in 2022. He counted that Ukrainian society is weak and resistance is not possible, but he failed with his predictions. And now Ukraine is the big country with millions of people living there. It defends its territory, and for Russia, well, Russia struggles, so Putin might look for alternate variant where he might use his forces. For Baltic countries, well, he might use the part of the forces, but he needs to mobilize more army men. So it's the only variant for Putin to attack those countries. Without mobilization, he would not have enough resources even to push through Suwalki corridor. I think it's not possible. Well, Russia might reach Kaliningrad Oblast through the corridor, but later on NATO would concentrate enough forces to counterattack and Russians will just retreat, and they may lose in this case Kaliningrad Oblast. And there are more and more talks ongoing about counteroffensive measure against the possible Russian aggression against Baltic countries and Poland, to attack Kaliningrad, to get it under control in case of the Russian aggression. Those voices we have from the very high NATO officials, from politicians of the neighboring countries with Russia, with Belarus, that they are ready to defend themselves. 1 year ago there were just few people, experts, who were speaking about this possible scenario, but now it seems like everyone is looking into it. Also the intelligence officials of Germany, for example, who spoke about Estonia. Russia is sending also their forces. They're creating new foreposts in a very close proximity to Finland. They even put the rails over there, and Russian army is the rail army. They need railroads to move fast around. It's the ground army. Finland authorities already confirmed this information, and they're also preparing to defend themselves. And yeah, honestly guys, it's not about if Russia attacks NATO countries, it's about when. Well, I might not be correct, but judging on all of the signals coming, the war in Europe will expand, not just in Ukraine, but towards the other countries, which are neighboring Belarus and Russia. For this kind of the scenario, Putin absolutely needs more soldiers. He is unable to get those just from the volunteer paid mobilization. So there will be a mobilization, compulsory one, in Russia announced, I guess, in the next year or maybe at the end of this year. Even spring this year, Kremlin spokesman Peskov says that Russia is ready for mass mobilization like in World War II at any moment if it is the imminent threat for Russia. And as I mentioned, from the legislation perspective, they did everything to mobilize everyone. Yeah, every night in Ukraine, many drones are flying to hit Kiev. Many of the Shahids spotted elsewhere in Ukrainian territory. There were ground explosions heard in many of the cities. But as usual, Ukraine responses on that, striking Russian facilities with own drones. For example, this is the factory somewhere in Rostov region. The eyewitnesses shared this video with us. The Russian channel Zvezda showed the production of the Russian Shahid drones. You see one of the factories, just one. Russia has few of the factories. Just imagine the scale of this production. And do you think that those people are military? No, they're civilians. Sometimes even college students, technical college students. And it raises the philosophical question of whether Ukraine should attack those facilities or not because they're civilians. I think Ukraine should do it anyways because those drones are being launched by Russia to hit Ukraine. First of all, Russia started this war and it bears full responsibility even for their people. And those people who work there should understand that there are also aims for Ukrainian revenge. And it is not okay to take part in enemy regime drone production, the drones which are used on civilian facilities. It is very, very bad from their side. Yeah, you see in the factory they're blurring the faces of the people who work there because they're civilians, and for Ukrainian SBU not to find them, but I guess our SBU already knows every one of them. Some of the micro schemes, again huge drone production. You see the forms, some of the technological, lots of the people work there to produce devastating machines to terrorize the neighboring state. This is the engine production, so they use their own produced engines. Before, the spare parts were delivered from Iran, but now, as you may see, everything is independent. And now Russia is capable to produce hundreds of the drones per day. This is crazy, guys. It is more than Iran is capable to produce. Way more. Good news. Ukraine hit the Russian semiconductor production facility. Angstram. It is located in Zelenograd. Yeah, I heard about those strikes one day ago. It happened during the night time. Well, Russia is not good producing semiconductors, let's be honest. They mostly take those chips from China or other countries. Russia is still in lack of the very precise technologies to produce really developed chips, but still the chips they produce are okay to use for their military in many of the spheres. The rocket production, aviation and many more. That's why those facilities were very important for Russia, and Ukraine hit them hard yesterday. Yeah, some of the kaboom in the local factory. Russians are mad about Azerbaijan and Azerbaijani leader Aliyev. They also shared this kind of the video on their channels, how Ukrainian representative shared the patches of the Ukrainian battalions to the president of Azerbaijan. Well, Aliyev received the present and wished Ukraine to continue the fight. Also in his press conference, he stated that Ukraine should never recognize the occupation of its own territories because Azerbaijan did the same. Also, Aliyev stated that it is a total bullshit that Ukraine shut down the Azerbaijani commercial jet Embraer 190 in the Russian airspace using their own drone. No, it was the Russian air defense. Plus the airspace wasn't closed. That's, by the way, what Russia says towards Ukraine, speaking about MH17, saying that Ukraine didn't close its airspace, so here Russia didn't close its airspace. Moreover, they shut down the commercial jet. Obviously, seeing those attacks, Ilham Aliyev, Azerbaijani people, they changed their perception of Russia. And I just hope that Azerbaijan will support the Ukrainian military. Before we had humanitarian help from Azerbaijan, it was big help as for this country. But if we take like all of the post-Soviet Union countries, I think that Azerbaijan is the most developed one for the size. Very rich country if we speak about natural resources, so huge potential out there. And this is Sevastopol, the place where I was born, my hometown, let's say. I haven't been there for a very, very long time, so this is the bay, pedestrian, very nice. And here heroes of the Soviet Union and maybe of Russia, which they put, they occupied my city a long time ago in 2014. So Zhukov, as you can see, some other Russian heroes, and Ramzan freaking Kadyrov. So Soviet, like great more or less heroes, if we may say, and they put freaking Ramzan Kadyrov at the same place. Wow. So what Ramzan Kadyrov has to do with my hometown, I'm out of clue, but they put him there. It is crazy, guys. Somewhere on the front lines, just one road from many. You see how many vehicles are there. This is the Russian part, Russian-controlled territory, not the Russian part, it's better to say. So many vehicles, motorcycles also there. Trucks and everything, and it's just a tiny little part of what is happening out there on the front lines. Oh my god, and the roads are dirty because of the rain. This is crazy, guys. Yeah, the classical picture Bukhanka, just a road to hell. Oh my god. Oh, this is such a cringe. Oh my god, this is the Russian volunteer. And this is the Russian soldier. Russia still hires many of the soldiers, mercenaries from different countries. And oh my god, she just came to him and it seems like she's petting the guy and fuck. This is so cringe. Thank you so much for fighting on the Russian side. He fights for money, that's it. I'm not about this guy. This guy is fine, except he's fighting for Russia, right? Otherwise, he's okay, but he is dumb fuck because he joined the Russian army. I'm more about this Russian, how to call her, lady or what? Her behavior is cringe. She's definitely in lack of some of the even temporary male companion, so she found her victim. What happened next? No one tells. Yeah, potentially he could be her temporary partner till Ukrainian drones split their relations. Okay, one more Russian soldier. We may see even his camouflage. It's not even dirty. I wonder how Ukraine was capable to capture him. It seems like, yeah, but he's in a Ukrainian prison now. Our guys wanted to interview the guy, but instead they witnessed the talent show or something. I wonder what language he speaks. Maybe Spanish or some dialect of Spanish. I guess he's from Cuba, after all. And honestly, I have never seen such a happy, imprisoned Russian soldier or Russian mercenary. Usually they're very sad and calm. Well, this guy, he doesn't care. He's happy that he'll drink normal water, at least. We have some music break here. This is Kiev again, guys. By the time I'm recording this video, there were numerous of the strikes. Russia launched their ballistic missiles. Some of the missiles went to hit some of the infrastructure. Not enough Patriots, not enough Patriot missiles. Now half of everything which is flying to Ukraine is being intercepted, and half no. But in the middle up to long term, I hope Ukraine will receive enough systems. Otherwise, there will be more and more devastating strikes on Ukrainian civilian cities. And guys, sorry for my lazy voice today. Luckily, the sickness is not touching my voice now, but I have a fever now. I don't know what is happening, but hopefully tomorrow will be better. And yeah, don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.